5 cases, 5 victims, 0 answers. These aren't stories pulled from a horror movie. These happened on real streets in real towns, towns just like yours. The detectives are stumped. The witnesses are gone. And the killers? Still out there. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you might think you know who did it. Number 1. The Vanishing of Mary Elaine Dobbins, Springfield, Ohio, 1987. It was October. The kind of October where the wind bites early and the leaves turn blood red before they fall. Mary Elaine Dobbins was 23 years old. She worked the early shift at a diner on Route 40. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's coffee order, who stayed late to mop floors she didn't have to mop, who called her mother every Sunday morning, without fail. On October 14, 1987, she did not call. Her car was found parked exactly 3 blocks from her apartment. Engine off, doors locked, purse sitting on the passenger seat. Her keys were still in the ignition, but Mary was gone. Police canvassed the neighborhood for 2 weeks. They knocked on 400 doors. They dragged the creek behind the shopping center on Mill Street. They interviewed her coworkers, her neighbors, a man she'd gone on 2 dates with the previous summer. Nothing. But here's where it gets strange. 3 months after Mary disappeared, a postcard arrived at her mother's house. No return address. Postmarked from a town called Harlow, a town that doesn't exist on any Ohio map. The postcard said 4 words. She asked me to. Her mother kept that postcard for 31 years before she passed away. She never stopped believing someone, somewhere, knew exactly what happened to her daughter. Mary Elaine Dobbins has never been found. The next case starts with a locked room, a missing weapon, and a neighbor who heard something no one can explain. Don't go anywhere. Number 2. The Locked Room of Carver's Creek, Louisiana, 1994. Carver's Creek, Louisiana. Population, 400. The kind of town where everybody knows when you sneeze, and they're talking about it before you reach for the tissue. Which is exactly why what happened to Raymond Tull made no sense at all. Raymond was 58, a retired high school principal, widower, quiet man, lived alone in a yellow house at the end of Cypress Road, a road that dead-ended at the swamp. On the morning of August 9, 1994, Raymond's neighbor, a woman named Dottie Arsenault, noticed his front door hanging open. That wasn't like Raymond. Dottie walked over. She found Raymond in his study. He had been killed, single-wound. No weapon found. No sign of forced entry. Every window in the house was latched from the inside. The front door, the only unlocked door in the house, had a screen door behind it that was still hooked shut. Dottie had to unhook it herself to get inside. The county sheriff called it the cleanest crime scene he'd ever seen in 30 years of law enforcement. Not a glass out of place. Raymond's reading glasses sat folded neatly on his open Bible. His coffee mug was half full, still warm when the paramedics arrived. Whoever did this walked through a locked house, committed a crime and walked back out, leaving every lock, latch, and hook exactly where they found it. But here's the twist that kept investigators up at night. Dottie Arsenault told police she heard someone walking on Raymond's back porch at 4 a.m. Slow, deliberate footsteps, back and forth, back and forth. She thought it was Raymond. She went back to sleep. When investigators examined the back porch, the floorboards were rotted through. So rotted that a grown adult could not have walked on them without falling straight through into the crawlspace below. So who or what was Dottie hearing? The case was officially suspended in 1997. Raymond Tull's study still looks exactly as it did the morning Dottie found him. His daughter keeps the house. She says she'll never sell it, not until someone tells her the truth. Case 3 involves a woman who predicted her own death in writing, and the note was found too late. Number 3. The Note in the Walls, Denver, Colorado, 2001. Denver. The city is buzzing. The economy is booming. People are buying homes, renovating old ones, tearing out walls and replacing them with something new. That's exactly what the Hartwell family was doing when they moved into a Victorian home on Claremont Street in the spring of 2001. 6 weeks into the renovation, their contractor broke open a wall between the kitchen and the dining room, and inside the wall, sealed between the lath and plaster, he found a glass jar. Inside the jar, a folded piece of paper, handwritten in pencil, with a name, a date, and 15 words. My name is Constance Veal. If you find this, I did not leave this house on my own. The date on the note, March 3, 1962. Investigators pulled the records. Constance Veal was a real woman. She had lived in that house from 1958 to 1962. According to the records, she moved to California in the spring of 1962. But no one ever heard from her in California. No forwarding address ever used. No tax records after 1962. No social security claims. No death certificate. She simply existed until March of 1962, and then stopped existing entirely. The note was tested. The paper, the pencil composition, the jar, all consistent with early 1960s materials. It was real. Here's the twist. When investigators went to seal her case as a likely homicide, a woman in a nursing home in Tucson, Arizona, contacted them. She was 81 years old. Her name was Constance Veal. She said she had written that note in absolute terror. She said a man had been threatening her for months. She said she hid the note because she was afraid she wouldn't make it out. And then one morning, she woke up, packed a single bag, and ran. She'd been hiding under a different name for nearly 40 years. But here's what she couldn't explain. The man she was afraid of, the man she fled from, had died in a car accident in 1963. There was no longer any reason to hide. So why did she never come back? She went quiet. She looked at the investigator across the table, and she said, "Because he wasn't the only one I was afraid of." She refused to say another word. She died 4 months later. The second person she was afraid of was never identified. You think that was chilling? Case 4 involves a small town, a missing child, and a suspect who had the perfect alibi, because he was already dead. Number 4. The Hollow Oak, Pine Ridge, West Virginia, 1978. Pine Ridge, West Virginia. Population at the time, 600 people. 1 gas station, 1 church, 1 school. And on the night of November 2nd, 1978, 1 missing child. Tommy Greer was 9 years old. Brown hair, gap-toothed smile. He was last seen at 6 p.m. walking home from his friend Danny's house. A walk he had made 100 times. The path cut through the edge of the Millbrook Woods, a stretch of forest at the back of the neighborhood that the kids called the Hollow because of the giant, ancient oak tree at its center. The one with a hollow so wide that 3 kids could hide inside it. Tommy never made it home. The search lasted 11 days. The entire town came out, flashlights in the dark, deputies with tracking dogs, volunteers who took vacation time to comb the woods. They found one thing: Tommy's left sneaker, placed neatly, not dropped, not thrown, placed at the base of the hollow oak. Laces still tied. Interviews turned up something disturbing. Several children in the neighborhood said a man had been hanging around the edge of the woods for weeks before Tommy disappeared. An older man, white hair. He walked with a limp and always wore the same green jacket. 3 separate children, interviewed separately, described him identically. The sheriff's department identified a match, a man named Earl Mossgrove, 67, who lived on the edge of Pine Ridge and had prior offenses. Earl Mossgrove had died of a heart attack on October 28, 1978, 5 days before Tommy disappeared. So who were the children seeing? The descriptions were too consistent, too detailed to dismiss. A composite sketch was drawn and quietly circulated. No match was ever found. Tommy Greer has never been found. His parents have since passed. His sister, now in her 50s, still lives in Pine Ridge. She still leaves a light on every November 2nd. She says it's for Tommy, in case he ever finds his way home. The final case is the one that will stay with you the longest, because this time the killer left a message, and the message was meant for you. Number 5. The Signal Hill Letters, San Diego, California, 2009. San Diego, a coastal city full of sunshine and salt air. Not the kind of place you'd expect a story like this to begin. But Signal Hill sits just above the city, a quiet residential rise where the ocean view is beautiful and the streets empty out early at night. On February 17, 2009, a woman named Gloria Ontes, 38, was found in her parked car on Signal Hill Drive. She had been there since the previous evening. Her phone, wallet, and identification were untouched. There was no sign of struggle inside the car. The cause of death was determined within days, but the motive and the killer have never been found. Here's what made this case something else entirely. 3 days after Gloria's death, a letter arrived at the San Diego Police Department, typed, "No prints, no DNA," postmarked locally. The letter described the exact location where Gloria would be found. It described her car. It described what she was wearing. The letter was postmarked the day before her body was discovered. The author knew before the police did, but the letter went on. It said that Gloria was the third. It gave no names for the first 2, no locations, no dates, just, she was the third. There will be more. Not because I want there to be, because someone is making me. Investigators worked that phrase for months. Someone is making me. Was it coercion? A cover story? The writing of someone mentally unwell? More letters followed. For over 8 months. Each letter arrived after the fact, describing people, places, and details that had never been released to the public. And then, the letters stopped. No more deaths were publicly connected to the case. No arrest was ever made. The letter writer was never identified. Here is the final twist, the one that investigators have never been able to explain. The fifth and final letter did not describe a victim. It described a detective. It described his morning routine, what he ordered for breakfast, the route he drove to work, the letters on his daughter's backpack, details that would require surveillance, sustained, careful, close surveillance. The letter ended with a single line, "I want to stop. Make sure the right people know that." That detective retired early. He has never spoken publicly about the case. The San Diego Police Department has listed it as an active investigation every single year since 2009. Nobody has ever been charged, and those letters are still sitting in an evidence room 15 years later, waiting for someone to find the connection that everyone else missed. 5 cases, 5 sets of questions that nobody has answered, not yet. Mary's postcard from a town that doesn't exist. Raymond's locked room with impossible footsteps. Constance's second secret she took to her grave. The man in the green jacket who was already dead. And a letter writer who could see everything and wanted someone to make them stop. Maybe one of these cases has a detail you noticed that investigators missed. Maybe your theory is the one that cracks it open. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. You might be more right than you think. If the story kept you watching, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe and hit the bell.